Okay, we are live on YouTube and the Facebook, right now. Okay, we are live on YouTube and Facebook. So just later. Yeah. So yeah. Again, my name is Lena Weiss, and most of the people here know me. And today, I'm really honored, invited, introduce you to Super Team, and I've been working with. I mean, I'm most of the time I'm on the residential side, so that's about like 7, 8 years ago. My client picked a Super Team, and they come out, and I was super impressed by their quality, their service, and the stuff from there. And I was like, I recommend everybody to them. I just want to give you why I invite them here right first. Then after I joined the team, I mean our we partners, I start to do more and more on commercial side, like all kinds of different things, warehouse, retails. And honestly, I don't have a lot of knowledge regarding how can I help my client to do the, choose the right property, stuff like that. So I reach out to the super team, and surprisingly, they tell me they have, truck approved the instructor to teach the commercial side. That's why here today we're here. I invited all the super team come here to give us a speech. And okay, let's just give the mic to somebody more professional. Okay. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Blake Williams along with my wife Angela. We are the founders of Super Team Services. And so what makes us different from the average home inspector? We can offer so much more than the chuck in the truck. We are one of the largest home inspection companies in the nation, completing over 12,000 inspections a year in 6 markets in 5 different states. So we operate in DFW, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Las Vegas, Salt Lake City, Maryland, Virginia, DC. And so we started growing our company in 2014. I hired the first inspector other than myself in 2014. And from there, we've grown to have nearly 50 inspectors and 5 different companies. So we also have a commercial division, which Josh here leads. We also have an HVAC company here in DFW. We have a pest control company here in DFW. We can also help your clients with utility connections and things like that. And so we're going to be answering the phone from 7 in the morning till 9 at night, 7 days a week. Oftentimes, if you text our number after 9 o'clock at night, me or my wife are going to answer you. Okay, so we're going to be there when you need us. We try to get inspections done either same day or next day. So if you call us in the morning, chances are we can get that inspection done for you this afternoon, or at least by the next day. We do foundation elevation survey with every single inspection that we do, as well as WDI report and infrared camera inspection. That's on every inspection included in the price. And we're your complete one-stop shop. So if you need a pool inspection, septic, water well, sewer camera inspection, mold, whatever you need, we'll either, if we don't do it ourselves, we'll arrange to have it done for you, so we take that off of your plate. Our mission is to provide opportunity and super experiences to our team, our clients, our agents, and everybody that we serve. And so, like, we gave Josh the opportunity to lead up our commercial division last year, I think is when you started, 2 years ago. And he's done a great job with that. Logan is here with us today. He wanted an opportunity to learn how to do these types of presentations, so he's here to observe. And just like the previous speaker was talking about people, this is what we truly believe in. Every problem in your business today can be solved by having the right people in the right places doing the right things. We want to be that right person for you, that right company that can take care of your clients and make you more productive as an agent. So thank you very much for attending our class today. We also have a home inspection school, and we are a certified education provider by TREC. And so that's where this class comes to you from. And my cards, I just put in the holder up there, and my cell phone number is on there. If you ever have a problem or any questions about anything, I'm happy to answer. Cell phone, text message, email, whatever suits you best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Blake. Good morning. I guess it's kind of close to afternoon now. So today we're going to do a look at commercial inspections. How many of you have ever done a commercial inspection? One. Anybody know, what do you know about commercial inspections other than the fact the building is often different than the residential home? Anybody? Things that are different that you know for sure are different? Oh, losing some stuff here. Okay, so some things that are different with the commercial inspection is obviously the building's different. There's warehouses, there's office buildings, hospitals, churches, grocery stores. The HVAC equipment is often different. In some cases, they do use similar systems to residential homes. So we're going to go over some of that here this morning. And then I'll give a little bit of background on me. This is Jeff. He is one of the instructors that we typically use. He's busy in the field today. But my name is Josh Reed. I have been an inspector now with Super Inspector for over 5 years, but I'm in my 7th year as a TREC licensed inspector in the state of Texas. I was with a previous company before and joined Super Team in 2020, just after the start of COVID. Which has been a great experience. I've enjoyed working with Super Inspector. They have a great support system as a company, inside the company, and then we have great tools and support systems outside of the company as well. I am married for 21 years, have 6 children, 5 boys, 1 girl. My oldest is graduating this year. My youngest is 6, so I got a lot of busyness at home. And before I was a home inspector, I was a facilities maintenance technician and engineer for hospitals, which is how I have some background in the commercial field. So just a little bit of history about myself. This is Jeff. He's the vice president. He's done all these things with Super. If you need Super training for agents or home inspectors, we provide that with our academy as well. All right. So SI Commercial is a division of Super Inspector. We've been doing residential inspections for about 18 years, and we brought on, I think it was about 15 years ago, started doing some commercial inspections. We've learned a lot of things in that period of time. We've changed some things in that period of time as well. But we are a company that can do both. So if you have clients that are looking for commercial or residential, we can help support you with that. Commercial property inspections are extremely important for both safety and as well as making sure to get the most out of your property investment. SI Commercial utilizes a dedicated process to ensure the buyer can make an educated decision when it comes to purchasing a commercial property. What's the main concern for your residential buyers when they're buying a property?
The main concern?
What are some main concerns for residential clients?
Foundation.
Foundation, yes. Roof, yes.
Electrical plumbing.
Electrical plumbing, HVAC, yeah. All those things are still the main typical concerns for a commercial property purchaser, investor group, because those are the main components that could cost them money in the process, just like on your residential side. Some things before I read this line that are different between the residential TREC standard inspection that we do with Super Inspector. We actually have our own Super Inspector standards that exceed the TREC SOP for home inspectors. But some of the things that are different that you can kind of get lost in the weeds on between residential and commercial is commercial. Most of the little mundane things that you see in a TREC inspection, like damage to the wall, little hairline, normal settlement cracks, those kind of things aren't going to be, not that they won't be looked for, but they typically won't be mentioned in the commercial inspection report, because we can make the commercial inspection report extremely long with those smaller details that the commercial client isn't as concerned about. On the commercial side, typically what dedicated trained regional inspectors in Austin because we have an office in Austin. We've done some in our Vegas location as well. All right, so we like to do a customized expert team approach when necessary. So we utilize technology and a qualified team of experts to properly identify the condition of structures, mechanical systems, plumbing, and electrical units. So if we are trained to look at the support of the structure, just like we are on the Trek side, we're trained on the commercial side as well to identify potential concerns. We do not have an in-house structural engineer, but we've been trained by a structural engineer in the past to do these evaluations. If you want a structural engineer's report, then we can help get you in contact with a structural engineer for that. Same thing with MEP, which is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers. We can help coordinate those with licensed professionals as well. Even though we are trained to look at them, we're not like the licensed professionals in those fields. Fire safety engineers with commercial buildings, a lot of times there are, depending on the size of the property, fire sprinkler systems are required. Now, just for the sake of your own knowledge, those do have to be inspected at least annually. So there should be an updated inspection sticker or tag on those systems. But not every commercial property is required to have them. It basically starts at 12,000 square feet and beyond is when it's required. They could be in smaller buildings and depends on the use of the building as well. Roofing contractors, we've had a couple of commercial properties where they want a qualified roofer to look at it and give their own report. Again, we're qualified to look at them, but there have been cases where we need to contact a contractor to come out and look at it for our clients. As well as HVAC technicians, we do have, on certain commercial properties, we do have an HVAC division of our company, and we can set that up with certain systems. Some of the systems may be too large or not the type that they're licensed to inspect. I did a property in Allen that had geothermal, which is a system that uses the temperature in the ground to heat and cool the building. So it's a very energy efficient system, but the systems were like 15-ton systems. There were several of them on this building, and our guys aren't qualified to look at those. So we had another company come in and help do the evaluation for that client. Licensed electricians, we can help get you in contact with those as well. We have a list of vendors that we vetted that we can help coordinate those things with. Licensed plumbers, as well as other specialists like septic, if that came into play on your property. Mold, as Blake mentioned as well. All right, types of properties. We talked a little bit about warehouses and light industrial. So those are like office spaces. Sometimes it will be a single office space with a waiting room and then a big warehouse. That's pretty common. Some of the office spaces are doctor suites or maybe law offices. We've done a law office recently. Retail stores. These ones are, most of the time, they're just wide open spaces with multi-use bathrooms, like Five Below. We did a Kohl's place before, one that was a Best Buy, and now it's something else. Or you get, office spaces. So those are ranging from small stick-built structures or tower type. Those can be larger multi-floor buildings. Like this one here. We did a 3-story one in Denton not too long ago, office building. Apartment buildings and multifamily residence. Those are ranging from small 4-unit buildings to multi-unit high rises. Things like this one here. I've done 40-unit apartments this year, several 8-unit, 20-unit. And we've really tried to refine our process of the commercial inspection to get you the report sooner. We used to do a 10-day turnaround because the transaction and building the report can take a little more time. This year, when I started 2 years ago doing this, we got it to 5 days. And now we do it within 3. But sometimes we can get it to you that evening as well, just because we've been continuing to try to refine our process. Farm and ranch, those are residential properties, but they have arenas, barns, stalls, a lot of times barn dominiums. Sometimes they'll have wells and septics, so multi-building properties. Those ones are usually all day, and sometimes they can take more than one inspector. So as well as the apartment buildings. Usually if it gets over 10 units, I have to call somebody else in to come with me who I've trained to help out with the process on apartments so that we can get it done the same day, or more guys if we need to get those done the same day. It just takes a few more days for the apartment reports, because we like to build it out so you know which apartment you're looking at when you see the general pictures of in the report. Also special purpose facilities, medical facilities, churches, schools, grocery stores. Done a couple churches this year, lots of stores. Haven't done any big grocery stores yet, but we're looking forward to those ones. So what we do is a property condition assessment. So just so you're aware, there are no technical required standards in the state of Texas for commercial buildings. But what we did as a company is we sent our inspectors to training with a structural engineer company. The guys who did this before me, they went to a training with a structural engineer company that learned the process for the ASTM standards. And the ASTM stands for American Society of, I think it's Trained Materials. No, not trained. I have it on my phone. I had to look it up because I couldn't remember. Let me check. I meant to look this up before I started. It's the, testing materials, sorry. So basically it's the group that got together to decide these is how these materials should be tested. And that's the process that we followed. There can be any other type of documentation that a commercial inspection can follow, but this is what we've chosen because that's what we believe gives you the best idea of your property during the inspection. So it says the report will be a professional opinion based on the accessible visual components and systems of the building. Processing equipment is inspected only by special arrangement. So in that case, we did a winery last year, and big 8,000 square foot processing facility, and all the equipment was in there. We're not trained to test that equipment. So what we do is we recommend that it be tested, that the person buying the property may not even be wanting to use it. But we can get you in contact with people who can test it if necessary, or like restaurants. Commercial kitchen equipment is beyond our typical scope of what we're trained to inspect, but we can bring somebody in to do that if necessary as well. All right, so the basic property assessment. These are the areas that are to be inspected during the inspection. So the structure, it includes the foundation, elevation measurements when applicable. So a lot of times commercial properties are so large that we can't get measurements and the time to do them. Like we've done 20,000 square foot buildings and you can't really get all the measurements on those. So what we do in those cases is we look for evidence that there may be structural concerns, and then we'll get measurements in that area so that we can give you a little more information on if there is a concern in this area. We look at grading and drainage, and when necessary, we include the wood destroying insect conducive conditions when applicable, but you can request a wood destroying insect full inspection with an independent report like you can get on the residential side as well. We inspect the electrical systems. So with commercial, it's with TREC, testing the electrical system, we're testing every outlet. On commercial, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of outlets on some properties. So it's spot testing. Test this wall, you move a couple outlets down, you test that one, you move a couple outlets down, you test the next one. And the reason is because it adds cost to your inspection, and it also adds time to the inspection on a commercial property. If it's a smaller suite, like we've had some requests recently for 1,500 square foot suites, we're going to test all the accessible outlets in those cases, just so you're getting the best idea that you can on those systems. And then on the commercial side, the commercial client often isn't worried about one outlet not working. They want to know the overall scope, because that's a real minimal cost on that one outlet versus on the residential side where, hey, that one's not working, and then that one's not working, and then that one's not working, and that cost goes up a lot faster for a residential client than it does for a commercial client. We look at the heating system. Just like on Trek, we test those as long as the conditions are appropriate for that. There are similar systems that we can't test heat sometimes. Same thing with air conditioning. We test the cooling system. Again, the same parameters apply where if it's too cold outside, we can't test the air conditioning. Ventilation is the duct work. That includes dryer vents, exhaust fans. If there's range hoods, even on the commercial kitchen, there is a range hood system that exhausts that out. So we get up, we don't test those ones. Usually the businesses are running, so they're running already because they're occupied most of the time. Those range hood systems, depending on the type of use for that kitchen, should have fire sprinklers. If they're using grease, if they've got a grease cookers, or they're doing things with woks, those overhead range hoods have to have fire sprinklers. So if you ever walk in one with a client that it looks like they're using grease in, or your client wants to use grease because they're going to bring a restaurant into a suite, make sure that they check out that range hood, because it could have to have some conversions or changes made to that. Plumbing systems and fixtures, we test those as well, just like we do on the residential, testing the drainage, running all the fixtures. We want to make sure you're getting hot and cold water everywhere, that everything's draining, and you're getting good flow at all those faucets. The roof surface, including flashings, drainage, and chimneys if present. Interior components. So on the interior, like I mentioned before, mechanical damage, little tiny cosmetic things. We see them, but we don't mention them, because a lot of times on the commercial side, who's buying it, a lot of times they might be coming in and redoing that suite, or they may be painting and changing things. So small cosmetic things are not part of the reporting, but we do notice them. If it's a big area of damage, we will put that in the report. We're looking for evidence on the commercial side of moisture intrusion, possible mold, any type of area where it's going to be a potential costly thing to the commercial client in that space. The exterior wall components, from the exterior walls, the doors, the windows, and any signage. We're looking as best as we can at the insulation. So we do, if there's an attic space, we get in the attic space. If it's a suite where it's got a drop down ceiling, we're lifting the ceiling to see what kind of insulation's there. Usually if it's a big retail building or an office building where it's got a drop in ceiling, the design of the structure has the insulation as part of the roof system. So there's not really insulation most of the time above the ceiling. But sometimes people do put insulation there because they may get some heat loss between the ceiling and that small 2 to 3 feet of technical space between the attic. It's not really an attic space, but between the ceiling and the top of the roof decking. So we do still do thermal imaging on the commercial property. Most of the time, it's not a full thermal imaging scan, unless it's a smaller suite, like I mentioned before, like it is on the residential. We do all the walls and ceilings on a residential. On the commercial, we do it, but we're also looking for damage and seeing if there's any active concerns like moisture damage and things like that. We inspect the parking lot, signage and lighting systems in the parking lot. The parking lots can be very expensive for your commercial clients if they're buying the full property. A lot of the inspections that we've done this year aren't just full property. We call them triple net inspections, where someone's doing a long-term lease on a suite, and they might come in and do some remodels or conversions on the suite, but they want to know if the HVAC system's functioning properly, how the plumbing's doing, and the electrical, because those are things that they can address with the landlord prior to moving in. Because at a triple net, if in a commercial, they're responsible for everything except for the exterior of the structure. So it can become a big cost for your clients if they're going to do a long-term lease and they don't get those things inspected. We also look at the landscaping components, including the irrigation system, walkways, driveways. When it says excluding the sewers, that's excluding the storm sewer. We're not trained to look at that, and that would be something that would be taken care of typically by the city municipality in that area. And we also look at the retaining walls of those properties. And then we do a limited ADA accessibility review. So what that is the American Disabilities Act access in and out of the building. Some of your commercial clients, those may not be required, depending on the use of the building. We still do note it so that they're aware of any potential changes they might have to make. But each city can have a little bit different, and each property can have a little bit different requirements depending on the use of the property. We also can do on-site sewage facilities when applicable, and then the additional services that Blake mentioned, which will be listed here in a couple of slides. So what we do is that when we do the report findings, we're looking at the things that we've observed. CPA is commercial property assessment reports are designed for quick decision making with an easy to follow summary of recommendations, costs, and priorities. So with your commercial property inspection assessment report, there is a summary section at the beginning that gives you an idea at a glance of the condition and the systems of the property that we do inspect. There's also going to be a cost estimate. So with the cost estimate, I think I'm jumping ahead a little bit here. With the cost estimate, that's for items that would cost the client $3,000 or more, because they do understand as the investment of the property, there is some maintenance things that they have to do. Those are things that they typically are aware of. There are some clients that aren't aware of those things, and they think that you can just move in, because in their mind, they can only think of a residential inspection and all these things should be figured out, but they got a growing small business and they want to jump into their own space. They're moving out of their house. And they just have to be aware, like, hey, on the commercial side, you're not going to get a complete breakdown of every repair of everything in the report. It's going to be $3,000 or more. We can get a more detailed commercial inspection report. We just need to know that ahead of time when scheduling the inspection, because there's a little bit more of a fee for that detailed commercial inspection repair cost. So a basic property condition assessment includes a description of the building system, components, observations, deficiencies, with detailed pictures and estimate costs for recommended repairs and improvements. Their opinions of the estimate costs. They are opinions of the estimated cost for recommended repairs. They will be divided into 4 categories. So immediate, short-term, long-term, discretionary repairs and improvements. So immediate would be something that this really should get repaired or replaced in the first 12 months of being at this property. Short-term would be 2 to 3 years, and then long-term would be 3 to 5 years, because trying to guesstimate how well something will perform farther than 5 years out is difficult, and we don't know if it's going to continue to work beyond that point. So here's the description. Immediate repairs and improvements are those that should be performed within 1 year. Short term, again, 1 to 2 years. Long term, capital improvements with the next 3 years and beyond. So things just to be aware of. And then discretionary ones are optional upgrades or costs that may be shared fully or in part with the current and future tenant. So I don't have a sample report, but it does look very different from the TREC report. It's got several, skip too far ahead, multiple additional sections. So the first report you get will look really strange, but remember it's for a commercial property. Not as many deficiency pictures. I do try to still add about as many, but not as many deficiencies come up in the commercial report. It's more of the specific things that will be costly to you or to your client going forward, even though there may be some cosmetic things here and there mentioned. Has anybody seen one of these before? You guys know what that is? So this is a rooftop package unit. So unlike the residential home that has 2 components, one outside, the condenser tied together with the refrigerant lines to the furnace or the air handler somewhere in the house, this does it all, and it's mounted on the roof. So the filters usually are inside these units, not somewhere on the ceiling of the suite. These are more costly when it's time to replace them, because it's not just the cost of the equipment, but it has to be craned onto the roof. So those are all things to be aware of. And then they're set on these curbs. It's like a big rectangular square on the roof, and that's what supports it. And then the air typically blows down into the duct and then distributes throughout the building or the suite. And then it has returns where it comes back to the unit, just similar to a residential unit. Here's a couple of different ones. So these two are rooftop units here. And you can tell the size is increased depending on the number of fans. So this one is probably a 7.5 ton to a 10 ton. On a residential one, usually the largest size you get is a 5-ton system. This guy here, this is a makeup air unit. This is an exhaust fan unit. These two here they look like mini splits. So they're probably trying to cool a data closet where they've got all their computer stuff running. These are exhaust fans, different than the residential ones. So a lot of times the exhaust fans on a commercial building go up through the roof. And they've got independent fans that run, in some cases, all the time. This is the top of a high-rise. So lots of different stuff going on this one. All of these are independent condensers for the building, for the suites or the homes in this building. This here, this is not a condenser. This guy's called a chilled water. It's called a cooling tower. That's for a chilled water system. And basically that is probably the unit that controls all the main common spaces of the building. And then all of these little ones do each individual suite or apartment or condo, because you'll have those on condos a lot of the time. So this guy doesn't have refrigerant like these guys do. They use water to cool the building, and the water is cooled down in what's called a chiller, and then it's more efficient and it runs through. And then this is just a giant evaporator, which does similar to what these guys do. They're big enough that you can stand up in them, those chillers. I've done so when they get to chillers and large building air handlers, they don't call them by tonnage anymore. They call them by how many horsepower they do, which is because it's referring to how much air they move. And I've worked in buildings where the air handler is as wide as this room. And the filters take like 20 filters in one unit. And you can actually stand inside of them to do all the maintenance on them. So some additional inspection services is we can coordinate, that can be coordinated with the inspection. We can do outstanding building code and fire code violation inquiries. That's something that we would have to bring somebody else in for. The fire safety inspection, that's typically got to be done by a licensed contractor who's approved by the fire marshal for that city. We can do phase 1 environmental site assessments. So phase 1 environmental site assessments are a lot of times for somebody who's they're wanting to buy the property and they want to get the history on the property. Maybe they're buying just an open lot, or in some cases it's an older building. We did one in Denton that was an old gas station. And whenever there's a gas station, the new buyer needs to know if there's any potential contaminants a lot of time in the soil. And with a gas station, they got to usually they do a site 1 environmental assessment to verify if there's any contaminants. That can be very expensive to your client, because site 1 assessments it's the environmental assessment. They have to come, they have to take soil samples. They research back into the history of the property. And they want to make sure that it's safe for the use that you're going to have to use it for, but also a good reason to get it done if you ever need it for a property is if it doesn't get done and that client goes to sell it, it will become a cost to them on the back end when they're trying to sell the property. Sometimes this will happen because the site might have been used for a landfill, but it's been not used for a decade. They moved it, and then they need to know what's going on in that soil to know if it's going to possibly cause any contaminants to what they're doing or the areas around them. Asbestos assessments. So asbestos there's concerns with asbestos in most of the time. If somebody's going to do a major remodel, they may be required to do an asbestos assessment just to determine what's in the materials that are there. Now, on commercial properties, asbestos isn't used anymore on residential, but in commercial, it had been used longer. What I heard from one of the asbestos techs that I talked to a couple years ago, she said technically they're not supposed to be building with asbestos anymore, but it can still come in the products. So just because we do get things from other places outside of our country and things like that, but they're really not supposed to be using it. So if they were going to do a major remodel, getting an asbestos assessment is recommended to verify that it's not there so that it can be taken out. If the building's older, like older than 1970, having it done as well, because that's usually when a lot of the asbestos material was being still used at that time. We can do elevator inspections. Now, when we do them as Super Team or SI Commercial, we're testing the function, making sure it goes up and down, that it stops level, lights are all working, making sure that it's got the updated certification, because elevators should be inspected annually as well, just like the fire system. But if you need a more detailed inspection, then we need to know that ahead of time, because a licensed elevator company needs to come out and do that inspection, and there's going to be an additional cost for that. Processing systems and equipment, again, we don't normally check those because it's beyond the scope and our expertise, but we can help coordinate those as well. And then getting detailed asphalt examinations, that would be done by a qualified parking lot or asphalt contractor. But we already do with the general inspection, we do evaluate the parking lot for you and give our input on the condition of that. Also, detailed roof inspections, which we mentioned before, can be done by a qualified roofing contractor. So some additional services that we can provide, I know I've probably mentioned this a couple of times, is the sewer camera inspection. Now that does come at an additional cost. In commercial buildings, it is not going to be the one-time $250. That's what we charge on the residential side, because the line that we run, that runs is not as long. On a commercial building, there could be multiple sewer line cleanouts and our camera can't reach the distance. So we have to jump in at another point and then move to another point because a cleanout is required every 150 linear feet of the sewer line on a commercial property. Some commercial properties, if they're older, you may want to have a sewer camera inspection of the vent pipe, which is the vertical pipe that exits out of the building. Older buildings in the 70s or older probably or could still have cast iron. And sometimes if there's been enough movement in that building, that cast iron can break and deteriorate. And you might notice if you ever get a sewer smell inside the building, that could indicate that. So there's an additional charge for those. We do try to evaluate if we can do just one fee. And then I have given discounts on a little bit on the sewer camera if necessary, if there's several that we need to do on those buildings. So just let us know what you see. And then what we do with the evaluation process of the commercial property is I'll look at the property online, get as much information as I can before we even give you the price. Because some of the things we need to know certain information about the building to make sure that we're checking everything for you and for your client, but then also charging appropriately for the inspection. We do have some base fees that I can share with you though, before we finish today. On-site sewage facility inspections, those would be the septic systems. Water well and water quality inspections and testing, we can provide that. Pool and spa inspections, like if you do an apartment complex or apartment buildings and they have a pool, we're trained for pools and spas. Environmental assessments, we can look at air quality, which would be mold, and then we can get lead assessments as well. That has to be done by a licensed professional. The mold and the lead have to be done by somebody who's licensed, but we can coordinate those things as well. And then the wood destroying insect report, again, that's an additional service on the commercial side, but we do look for wood destroying insect damage and conducive conditions. All right, the scheduling process. So the way that this works right now is you call into the office to schedule, or you call in and you ask to say, I want to get a commercial inspection, and you're trying to get pricing. The pricing, so right now our team is being trained to look up the property so that we can give you a fee for the inspection faster than waiting for me, because I'm still in the field doing inspections. So we get the address, we get if it's occupied, we need to know as much as we can about the property. Is it a retail building that has an access ladder, those kind of things, because we want to make sure we can get on the roof to look at your equipment. And if we can't, we need to make sure we bring a ladder or bring the right person to help get us on the roof so that we can see that equipment. So you call in, they're going to ask for the address. They're going to ask, a lot of times on commercial properties, it starts with the agent. And then eventually, if your client decides to move forward, then we get their information if that's something that is part of what they want to give and your agreement with them. So we get contact information. We discuss the needs so they discuss the needs with me right now, but again, we're training so that they don't have to do that anymore. So we can get you a fee sooner. We're still in the middle of that process. So right now what our team does, they get the information, they look at the way that I've trained them to come up with the bid, and then they just verify with me if it's accurate. That gives me a chance to look at the property, because on a commercial property, you may have 12 HVAC systems. It just depends on the use of the building. So they want to make sure that they're getting the right price to you so that we don't have those phone calls where we're like, oh, hey, we're sorry, we accidentally were wrong with our bid. I know that's not helpful to you. On the residential side, I know it's happened on the commercial side. So we're trying to clean that process up and move it to our office so that I don't have to do it and we can get pricing to you sooner. So then a bid is prepared. So a written document that can be signed by the client with the clear understanding of what is being provided with that inspection and what is not. The bid is the letter of acceptance. So we've included that into the new proposal. And then we have to verify that we can secure building access, just like you do on the residential side. Sometimes as the agent, you are the point of contact for the access. And it's the client is required on a commercial to get that all set up. I had one last week where the agent got access, but then didn't know that several of the suites, the businesses didn't open until after the inspection. So then they had to try to coordinate that on the spot with the owner or the property manager. The owner was really nice. Their building was right across the street. So they just ran over and opened up the suites that I had, that no one was there yet, and gave me access to those, which was great. But that doesn't always happen, and you don't want to have limitations on your commercial property, just like on your residential one. You want to be able to make sure everything's tested and checked as much as possible, so that you get all the information for your client that you can. So 5 business days, again, I mentioned earlier that that's changed. So it is now 3 business days. That's just 5 business days for the inspection. So no, that's not, we can do the inspection same day in some cases, like Blake said, but usually that means that the bid has already been sent, received, and then you're deciding, okay, they want to move forward. And if we can get all the other stuff coordinated, we can do it same day. This says 5 business days for the report. That's the one that I was mentioned earlier that has now been shortened to 3. But I have been able to this year to get them out within 24 hours. And then if you want to schedule your inspection, here's our numbers for DFW. We do San Antonio, Austin, and Houston here in Texas. So go ahead and take a snapshot of that. We did an apartment complex down in San Antonio recently and some restaurants in Houston earlier this year as well. Sure.
Do you guys do the floor load capacity assessment?
Floor load capacity assessment. What's being looked for in
so
that?
It's an office building, and they want to know how much weight can support each floor.
Okay.
Or
So
for
a data center. Okay. So that would have to be probably verified by an engineer, because usually we can't see what's there for the floor load. It depends on the building. And then they need to be able to have an idea on what kind of equipment they're bringing in to know if it will be able to be supported. Yeah. Yes.
Do you use like a boiler system for apartment buildings, like boiler room systems?
Boiler room systems. So on a boiler system, it's been a while since I've looked at those. What we would be doing is we would be doing a visual assessment of the boiler, looking for evidence of leaks, the condition, deterioration of the system, because a boiler system, like on an apartment system, they're usually bigger. In some areas of the US, there's really small ones that we could probably look at. But we would test it under normal function, like if it was, in some of in the apartments to see how it's heating. But the boiler system is usually supposed to be done by a licensed boiler. What is it called? A mechanical, a boiler. I think it's considered a boiler engineer or technician. Yeah. So to get an accurate, in-depth assessment, you'd want to have a boiler professional look at it.
Do you have connections? Would you
We can find one. We don't have one right now, but we can definitely get one. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Usually in the retail side, usually the landlord could the service in the premises, right?
Mhm.
When you going to they inspect the HVAC unit and see not only the condition, the life of the unit. Obviously, you need to have the electric service in place.
Mhm.
Do you have any, I don't know, like a generator or something, or any other solutions to check or inspect the units?
So like a way to provide power to the unit so that it can be checked?
No.
No. Yeah.
Only with the-
Yeah, because most of the time those units aren't set up with even a generator connection. There's a special connection that has to be made, just like on your home,
Yeah.
to provide generator power.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's something to be aware of on the commercial side is make sure that the power's on, because we've run into that, and that if the HVAC systems are there, which they usually are, that the thermostats are accessible. I did one in earlier this year, really wide open suite. They're going to bring a new business in, kind of like one of those like inflatable jumping fun places for kids. But the thermostats were not locked, but because it was a suite that was owned by a previous business, and then they made the business smaller and that suite stayed open. The thermostats were wired up to the ceiling 25 feet off the ground. So I couldn't even reach them. So be aware of those things. So when you go and look at those commercial properties, those are things that can limit the inspection, because even we can't get a 20-foot A-frame ladder in. We couldn't even move it there to access those thermostats. Yes.
Question. I noticed that you have fire sprinkler system inspection.
Mhm.
Does it include the heaters that's related to the fire sprinkler system?
Which specific types of heaters are you referring to?
Some large warehouses, they may have specific heaters just for a sprinkler system.
Yes. So in the warehouse situation, usually if it's got a ceiling mounted heater, right? What we'll do is if we can access the thermostat, we'll turn those heaters on just to make sure they're functioning. Yeah. Usually most of the time the thermostat's on a wall near the unit, so that you can access it to turn it on and off. Because it's not just there for the sprinkler system, it's there for the comfort of the staff in the warehouse when it's really cold. There are separate heaters in the riser room. The riser room is where the backflow device is, and the sprinkler system is fed from the city. That's also where the panels are that monitor the sprinkler system, if it's got those panels. That room usually has an independent electric heater just to keep that room warm, so the sprinkler system doesn't get too cold in the winter. So there's two different types of sprinkler systems. There's a wet system. A wet system on a fire sprinkler system means the pipes are full of water all the time. That's most of what we have here in Texas, because we don't get the prolonged freezing. But if you have a fire sprinkler system that extends out of the building, like let's say there's a catwalk that walks across a driveway, like at a hospital, from a medical building to the hospital, that catwalk area usually will have a dry system because they don't want water in that unless it's needed. And that line is compressed with air so that it doesn't break in freezing. And then what happens is if one of those heads break, a valve opens on that system because it loses air pressure, and then it pushes water into it. So 2 different types of systems on the fire sprinkler side.
In general, when you do commercial inspection, do you need access to the riser room?
Yes. So accessing the riser room helps us look at that equipment. It also helps us verify if it's been inspected recently, because there should be a tag, again, an annual tag. And then usually in the bigger retail buildings, the roof access ladder is also in that riser room, because of the ladders that we carry in our cars and in our trucks, they're not high enough to get us safely to the roof. So we need access to that roof ladder. Any other questions? Something to be aware of then before, because I think we're about out of time, is on a commercial property, if your client wants to convert the space to their use, try to find a space that already fits what they want to do. The reason is, even though they may have money to do the remodel, there can be things that you don't think about, even they might not even think about during the remodel. Like I just recently did a restaurant for a company, and they have a drop-in ceiling right now in the restaurant like this. So this acoustic tile ceiling is called a drop-in ceiling. And see these sprinkler heads with these rings? This is the proper sprinkler head for a drop-in ceiling. But what they want to do is they want to remove that ceiling and have the open concept and paint it all black. Now, when you do that, the fire sprinklers have to be changed because it's a specific design for the fire sprinkler system. The sprinkler is meant to cover the space. And if it's spraying down like that, the 2 or 3 feet above the ceiling won't be covered. So they have to convert that and add pipes and make the heads go up and put a whole nother head on. And that can raise the cost to your client extremely, because fire sprinklers is it's a very specific trade, and it's expensive to do that. So also, if they were going to convert and add kitchen stuff, all that stuff can get very expensive. Even asbestos testing. We have a company that we've worked with that does so many samples of building materials for a set price, but then once it goes past that, then it's an additional price. So we could always help with that as well.
For the asbestos assessment, do you have to actually break the walls or?
Yeah, so the technician who comes, they remove a portion. Yeah, because they have to get it tested to verify if it's got asbestos. And that's not a quick turnaround. I think it takes them about a week to get the asbestos sampling results back.
So you take, a big building, you take several samples from it?
Yeah, it all depends on the material in the building, because the tile here may be different from the tile in another area, or the ceiling tile, or the ductwork insulation. Those are all different materials, and they want to get a sample of each of them to know if they've got asbestos. Yes.
Also on asbestos, is there a specific year of the age of the building that's required, or you would recommend?
So asbestos assessments are, I believe that they're required if you're going to do a major remodel, but it's really like if it was like 70s or earlier is when more asbestos was used. Like if it was built in the 50s, you definitely want to do it, because just the floor tile alone is going to have, it's not the tile itself, it's the mastic that they use to stick the tile down. So good questions. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I think we're good. Well, thank you guys so much for letting us come out today. I have some cards up there as well that you guys can use. They do say SI commercial, so I do commercial, but I also do residential as well. If you need that.
Okay, thank you so much. Do you want to maybe? Okay, I don't have anything to say, so let's just stop there. Thank you so much, guys, coming over. Yeah. Oh yeah, Blake, you want anything to say?
No, I'm good.
Oh, good. He's good too. So we will also have. I mean, you already stopped, right? Yeah, that's okay. You can stop. Oh, okay. Well, it's still running. We also have another a training in December, early December, from the super team come out and teach us new builds on the residential side, new builds inspection phase 1, 2, 3. Okay, so everybody just don't forget, come over. Thank you.